Welcome to our last video on the endomembrane system, and in this video we're going to be talking about vacuoles. Okay, now we already kind of briefly mentioned what a vacuole, one type of vacuole here, food vacuoles. Let's talk about all the different type of vacuoles. Okay, so what are vacuoles? So vacuoles are basically large pouch of membranes, which essentially just store things like salt water, solutes, things like that. Okay, there's kind of like, you can think of them as the storage places for a cell. Okay, there's actually three types of vacuoles. There are central vacuoles, there are contractile vacuoles, and then there are food vacuoles. Okay, so let's first talk about what a central vacuole is. So central vacuoles are only found in plant cells. Okay, they're only found in plant cells, and they actually have many functions. Okay, many functions. Okay, so here we have a plant cell, and here we have the cell membrane. Here we have the cytosol, and then here we have the central vacuole. And as you can notice, the central vacuole is actually a very large part of a plant cell. Okay. Now, an important point to take is that the material which is inside the cytosol over here, is different from the material which is inside the central vacuole. The central vacuole actually has a different environment than what is in the cytosol. So, in plants, there's actually, let me see here, there are 5 functions which the central vacuole plays. 1, it holds organic molecules. Which can be used for different things later down the road. If the plant ever needs an organic molecule which needs to be used for something, it can take it from the central vacuole. It holds inorganic ions, things like a chloride ion or a sodium ion. Those types of ions are important to the cell, for the cell to perform cell communication, which we'll be looking at down the road. They also break down dangerous material, because remember here I mentioned that lysosomes are only found in animal cells. So how does the plant cell break down dangerous materials? It uses its vacuoles, specifically its central vacuoles. They hold pigments, which are important to plants because pigments are essential to things like flower color for pollination and things like that. So they hold pigments, and then they also help in the growth of the cell. And they help in growth because the central vacuole is, as it gets water, it's going to take water from wherever the water comes from, and it's going to start to expand. And what that does is it actually helps the cell also expand. Okay, so it plays a very big role in growth. Okay, now that's the first type of vacuole. Now let's talk about central vacuoles. So a central vacuole is actually in certain organisms it pumps water out of the cell. Okay, so that's all it does, just pumps things out of the cell. So how does that work? So imagine we have a cell like this, and then we have a contractile vacuole, and this contractile vacuole is slowly going to get bigger and bigger as maybe water starts to fill it, or just any fluid. And then what will end up happening is the contractile vacuole will just it will just shrivel up, and it will push that fluid out into the extracellular environment. Okay, so it's important for some cells because sometimes too much water enters a cell and the cell might burst open. So it's important for cells to have these contractile vacuoles, which can always take this excess water and just pump it out. And then finally we have food vacuoles, which you talked about here. Food vacuoles are basically where you have food from outside the cell which comes and enters the cell and forms its own vacuole. Okay, so that's it for now. I hope you learned a lot about the endomembrane system. I'd appreciate feedback on these 3 videos. So just leave a comment. But the endomembrane system is as simple as that.